From the research bench to the patient's bedside, this is Bench to Bedside with your host, Vice Chancellor and Director of the University of Kansas Cancer Center, Dr. Roy Jensen.
People directly affected by cancer, whether you have cancer, have survived cancer, or have a loved one with cancer, can give researchers a unique gift, perspective. Which treatments are best? Which drugs need to be improved to reduce side effects? How can we manage symptoms better? Who to better guide our researchers than individuals living with these questions every day? At the University of Kansas Cancer Center, cancer survivors, co-survivors, and researchers work together to design research that may lead to improved treatments and therapies. The program, called Patient and Investigator Voices Organizing Together, or PIVOT for short, is one of the few such cancer center patient research advocacy initiatives in the country. Simply put, PIVOT is a group of nearly 150 individuals directly impacted by cancer. With PIVOT, we can fulfill our mission to empower patients and advance patient-focused research and care. PIVOT members work directly with cancer center researchers, giving them input on how to develop the best treatments for cancer-related issues that are important to patients and their family members. From side effects to new drug combinations, our scientists and physicians confer with actual people living with cancer and co-survivors for guidance on pursuing the most effective and meaningful research. Good morning. I'm Dr. Roy Jensen, Vice Chancellor and Director of the University of Kansas Cancer Center. And joining me this morning is breast cancer researcher Dr. Nikki Cheng and Tracy Solis, a member of PIVOT. Welcome, Tracy. Welcome back to the program, I should say, and thanks again for joining us. Tracy, you like to call yourself a thriver. Why is it important for you to use the word thriver in describing yourself?
Well, something that I have learned going through cancer is that our oncologist's point of view, as soon as we start our treatment, they refer to us as a survivor. But for me, and I know some other cancer patients, their point of view, as long as we're still getting treatment of some sort and surgeries, revisions, it's hard to see yourself as a survivor until you're just done with it all. So I call myself a thriver just because I'm still doing this stuff every day and living with it, but I'm thriving.
That's great. So obviously I notice an IV pump sitting to your right there. Where
Yes.
are you in your cancer journey right now?
Well, I am done with active treatment because I was grew my hair back. But I am obviously still getting infusions. Chemo is great, but it does still ravage your body, and there are tons of complications that come from it. And I have to do infusions 3 times a week of electrolytes or whatever I'm low on. So I do that, and I'm still doing pelvic floor therapy to help my body get back in shape, and PT and OT. Just getting your body back to your before cancer body is a journey in itself.
So Tracy, can you share with us how and why you got involved with PIVOT?
Well, I got involved with PIVOT December of 2019. That was their very last in-person event. But I got involved with them because I wanted to share my story. I wanted my voice to be heard, and I had this great need to get back, to give others a voice too.
That's fantastic. Dr. Cheng, you are a basic scientist, and your main goal in your research is to understand the biology of breast cancer progression. So how does Pivot and people like Tracy help with your own research program?
So many researchers like myself genuinely want to meet cancer patients so we can better understand the key problems they face before, during, and after treatment. But oftentimes we don't get to meet with patients because we work in a research laboratory or we're working in our offices. So the Pivot program provides a way for us to do just that. Through this program, they paired me up with Tracy. And also through this program, I learned new ways to communicate my research to the public who may be interested in breast cancer research.
So tell us a little bit about the project that you and Tracy are working on together, and specifically, how has Tracy's feedback helped to guide your project?
So our project centers around the condition of muscle loss, which affects many patients with breast cancer who are treated with chemotherapy. So muscle loss can impair a person's ability to walk, move, or even do simple tasks like hold a glass of water. And when it's really severe, it can impair a person's mobility and take away their independence. So we really want to understand the causes of muscle loss and find new ways to treat it. So together with Tracy, we're pursuing a project to understand how a class of proteins called cytokines may be induced by chemotherapy and may be an important contributor to muscle loss in breast cancer patients. So this project uses a combination of animal models and biospecimens. And hopefully, if we can find new ways to target expression or activity of these cytokine proteins, we may be able to find new ways to better treat this condition. So Tracy has been a big part of this project for a while. She's helped to bring clinical collaborators into this project. Just listening to her and how she's dealt with muscle loss, she's been a big motivator for me to pursue this project. And also listening to her, I now understand that we need to design better animal model studies to better reflect how breast cancer patients are treated before, during, and after chemotherapy.
So Tracy, did you ever dream that when you received your cancer diagnosis that you would ultimately play such a critical role in helping others and helping to advance research?
No, I had no idea that I would be in the place I am now. When I was diagnosed, I felt so discouraged. My body was letting me down. But being a part of Pivot, I have learned that there is life before and after. I have been able to be a part of several rapid reactors with researchers, and I've obviously have had several opportunities doing bench to bedside, and it's the opportunities that Pivot has given me in regards to patient advocacy it's mind-blowing. I never thought I would be able to help this way.
So you mentioned the term rapid reactor. Tell us about what that is.
A rapid reactor is a researcher goes to the administrators that run Pivot, and they run their idea by them, and then they send out emails to all of us, and they select people, and sometimes it's like 5 or 6 people, and the researcher has 10 minutes to present their project, and then we have the rest of the time to ask questions, to make sure that they're looking at their project, all the way around it. And I mean, they're really good. They're really good. We give good feedback. We give it because some of them are caregivers, patients like myself, survivors. So we all have a point of view to give the researchers that may be something that they haven't thought of.
Mm-hmm. So if you're just joining us, we're here with Dr. Nikki Cheng and cancer thriver and Pivot member Tracy Solis, talking about the importance of patient-centered research. Remember to share this link with people you think might benefit from our discussion. Use the hashtag #BenchToBedside. We know so many of you have been touched by cancer and have your own questions. And today, Jessica Lovell is with us here to take those questions. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Dr. Jensen. Good morning. Yeah, we do have a few questions coming in. And Abby wants to know, how unique is a program like this? Are there other places in the country that are doing, have similar projects like this at their research facilities?
So I can start the answer to that, and we're not really aware of any programs that are exactly alike Pivot. We're very proud of the fact that we're breaking new ground in this regard, and it started out with quite a few people in the Cancer Center really considering how we can best learn from our patients to craft our research program to fit the needs that are actually in the community. And I think it's, as Tracy and Dr. Cheng will both tell us, it's been a great success, and there's been some really strong relationships developed between the researchers and our patients through this process.
So kind of along that note, Helen wants to know, is it just about the drugs and the medication, or are you able to gather information and advice from these patients just about all aspects of cancer? Are you talking to, I know Tracy, by the way, and she always has a lot of wonderful things to say and share. So I wondered, does it go beyond just the medicine and the research, or are you able to learn from these folks about their journey overall?
Sure. I think what many of our Pivot participants and our researchers have found is that it's not just about clinical care and clinical research. We're getting input on our basic science efforts as well, and in fact, obviously, Dr. Cheng is a great example of that, and I suspect that Tracy never expected that she'd be such an important part of a research program focused on trying to understand muscle loss in cancer patients. So I think it's been a delight for both sides to understand that they each have something to contribute.
For sure. Okay, so Tracy, Steve has a question. Help him out. He wants to know the best way to support someone with cancer. He says he's new to all of this and wants to know some of the best ways to help, or even some of the right things to say to someone who has been newly diagnosed with cancer.
The best things for someone that's first diagnosed with cancer is understand that we're just kind of in complete shock, and sometimes we just need somebody to be with us to hear what the doctors are saying to us, because we may be there physically, we may just not be there mentally. And another way that you can be supportive is, just follow their lead. Like if they want to cut their hair, shave their hair, because chemotherapy is going to do it, follow their lead. And just don't ever use the comment, "You have a great shaped head," because I think every cancer patient has been told that we have a great shaped head. But a lot of the chemos, our taste buds are gone, so trying to be careful on forcing food with them. I ate a lot of fruity stuff because I could taste it, like watermelon and cantaloupe, and foods to give them are not anything with the red sauce. Just it tastes like it's hot to us, like we eat a hot pepper or something. But honestly, just being there and letting them be the guide, and you just be like their support person, because we don't remember at all what we're being told to do. So we really do need somebody to listen for us and write things down and remind us what medications we're supposed to take at home before or after chemo. And, you know, that's the best way I think that you can support someone. I mean, I wish I had had that in the beginning. I did eventually get it. But yeah, being there and being a support for someone to talk to.
Yeah, follow your lead. I think it's hard because we want to help and we want to answer all the questions and we want to make it better, but don't always know how to approach it. So that's some really good advice, Tracy. Pauline wants to know, is muscle wasting disease common in other cancers?
Well, it can, many cancer patients experience muscle wasting, and some of our viewers may be familiar with the term cachexia, and that is a condition basically where patients in the latter stages of cancer lose a significant amount of their body mass, particularly muscle mass. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so important to understand this, because it can obviously cause many issues with being able to live a full quality life.
And can that be reversed? The muscle wasting?
Well, we have an expert here, so I'm going to turn that question over to Dr. Cheng.
Well, unfortunately, there's no cure for muscle loss, but it can be rehabilitated, as Tracy can attest to. And that's why we really want to understand what causes muscle loss so we can find new ways to better treat it.
Okay.
I wanted to add, it's very, and Jessica, it's also very important. I know that they may not want to move, but PT and OT helping during chemo will help at least keep what you have. Keep the muscle you have before it wastes.
So make sure you're keeping those appointments.
Right. I mean, you don't think that you can do it, but you can.
Yeah.
They used to drag me with a walker into my PT appointments. But yeah, I was able to improve. I mean, I obviously can't get it back, but I was able to improve what I had lost to the point where I could walk on my own again.
Yeah, even on those hard days, it's tough to be drug in there, but I'm sure you're glad you did it.
Yes.
Mary wants to know, do you have to be a cancer patient, and maybe she means a current patient, to participate in Pivot? Also, what is a cosurvivor and how can they get involved?
Sure. So, you do not have to be an active patient to be in Pivot. In fact, I would say the vast majority of the folks participating in Pivot are not active patients. And co-survivors are people that are spouses or parents or siblings of a cancer patient, and they have their own issues that are important to address in terms of being able to support cancer patients, and so they're also a part of this group, and they bring a lot to the table in terms of how we best help our patients through these issues.
Michael and Scott have kind of similar questions. Maybe Dr. Cheng can answer this, but anything that you've been surprised to learn from this patient interaction, anything that stands out that was interesting that maybe you were surprised to learn, and just certainly something that you're able to learn from a patient that you aren't able to learn in a lab. What stands out with you that you're able to gather?
Oh, I think getting Tracy's personal perspective on how she's dealt with breast cancer and with the treatments, you can't get that from reading a paper. And I think that what's been most surprising is just how the challenges she faces are things that many patients with breast cancer face, and but conditions like muscle loss, they're not actively looked for, so they're not actively treated. So I think being able to listen to her, it's been a really valuable experience.
Oh, I bet. Dr. Jensen, I'm going to send it over to you while I'm over here gathering a few more questions before we wrap up a little bit here. So I'll hand it to you.
All righty. So Tracy, I'd like to go back to you, and would you say to someone who is watching today who thinks that they need a science or medical background to be part of Pivot?
You do not need to have a science or a medical background. Just bring yourself. You'd be surprised at what you can bring with just your lived experience.
Mm-hmm. And in your own situation, you don't have a medical or scientific background, correct?
I do not.
So
I do not.
Yeah, just to follow up there, has anything that you have learned or seen on the research side surprised you as a patient?
Yes. I mean, before we got teamed up with researchers, a lot of us felt that they didn't see us as people, that they just, that they're in their labs doing their thing. But I have learned from Nikki, though, that a lot of the people in her lab and herself have a lived experience with cancer. So they are doing what they're doing for themselves and for the ones that they care about. So anyone can get cancer.
Yep. So Jessica, you look pretty busy over there. We have more questions coming in, I take it.
Yes, I have one right now from Fanny. A dear friend just diagnosed with a cervical and colon polyps that are cancerous, and she is fearful to get the COVID vaccine based on the research that she has done. So let's help her out. She is open to hearing new information. How can I support her to proceed with her self-care and finding calm information about the COVID vaccine? Yeah, talk a little bit about that. I think, people who are going through treatments, is it safe to get it? Do they need the booster? Can you help us with that a little bit?
So, I think it's important to work with your physician to understand exactly when the timing of a COVID vaccine should occur in your treatment. And it also depends, quite a bit on your particular type of cancer. I know that for patients like bone marrow transplant patients or CAR T therapy patients, those types of procedures tend to really significantly impact the immune system. And obviously, when you get your vaccine, you want to make sure that your immune system is ready to respond to the vaccine and produce a strong immune response. And so I would suggest that you work with your care providers there to understand, when the timing of such a vaccine would be. And believe me, we have tons and tons of experience with this, and we always work to make sure that you get your vaccine as quickly as possible, and in a circumstance that you will have a good response if at all possible.
Chris wants to know, Tracy, what kind of infusions are you getting today? And do all cancer patients have these type of infusions? What are they for?
Well, today I am getting potassium. I'm getting a few bags of it. From what I have found out from chemo is that it damaged my kidneys, so I am what they call potassium wasting. So it helps keep my potassium stable, because if it dips any lower, that's when it can affect the heart muscle. So we just keep giving me what I need. I do labs weekly, and no, not everyone has this problem. I know friends who did the exact same treatment I did, and they're not in this place that I am. So,
but do you feel better after you get them?
I do, because like when your potassium's low, you feel like your bones are just, frail. They hurt. Your joints hurt, so it does. It helps a lot.
Dr. Jensen, I think that wraps up the questions today, but I just want people to know if they have any questions that they think about after the program, to send them into us, and we'll follow up with Dr. Jensen on one of our next episodes. So thanks for sending those good questions in today. I'll send it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Jessica. We know many of you may be asking, how do I get involved in Pivot? And actually, it's quite easy. Just go to kucancercenter.org/pivot or email pivot@kumc.edu. And I'd like to have one last question for each of you, and I'll start with Dr. Cheng. What are you most excited about when it comes to cancer research, and particularly in terms of the project that you're working on right now?
Well, I think it's the opportunity to find new ways to help breast cancer patients. It's being able to use more patient-centered tools such as biospecimens, and I think that's what's exciting, hopefully being able to make a more direct impact on improving the quality of life for breast cancer patients.
And Tracy, there are many people out there who may have just received a cancer diagnosis and are feeling like their world has just been turned upside down. What would be the one thing that you would want to tell them as they start their journey?
I would tell them that they are in the perfect place. I have always said from the very beginning of my cancer diagnosis that the KU Cancer Center has treated me like a first-class patient. I mean, I feel safe here. I mean, through COVID and everything else, KU Cancer Center has kept me safe. I feel safe here.
Well, we really appreciate that, and obviously, that's our goal and that's our mission. So, thank you so much for being part of today's episode, and to learn more about the University of Kansas Cancer Center Patient Research Advocacy Program called Pivot, visit kucancercenter.org/pivot. That's it for today. Join us next week at 10 a.m. for Bench to Bedside. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our Bench to Bedside podcast, now everywhere podcasts are available.